Hi, today we're going to talk about children's counselling. Um, just to get an overview of how counselling can help children through difficult circumstances or in their everyday life. We have Chris Godin with us. He's a project manager for children's counselling. Hi, Chris.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so to start off with, could you maybe just explain to us how is children's counselling different to adult counselling, please?
Um, it's a lot more subtle when you're working with children because I think adults have a much better understanding of language when it
Mhm.
comes to explaining what's the matter. Whereas with children, especially when you're dealing with primary school ages, particularly the younger ones, they don't really have almost the emotional maturity to explain kind of what's going on. So a lot of what we do tends to be a lot more metaphorical. So we find ways of accessing what's happening to them through their play and through crafts or anything that's almost a distraction that allows you to see the subconscious. So there's a lot more emphasis on the counsellor and the counsellor's ability to notice what's happening than there would be with adults. Adults, they can tell you what's up, even if they don't understand it at great depth. They have the words, so to speak.
Mm. And how do you think what do they maybe bring to counseling? What do they need help with?
That again is very, very varied. It can be anything an adult comes with, children can come with as well. Because I think there's no real difference in terms of what challenges and what problems they're facing. I think there's just a different way that they can put them out. And you get such a mixed variance. Obviously, the older children, you've got peer pressure, pressures from school as well as home life. That can obviously lead to depression, which is quite common, especially in secondary schools. Younger children as well, they could witness a lot of domestic violence at home if they have a particularly volatile parent or single parents trying to raise children and the challenges that that brings in. So it's a lot more environmental, I think, for children. It's more of what's going on around them tends to be their struggles a lot more. More with the younger ones. As they get older, obviously, they start to take on more adult issues, if you will.
Hmm. And as a trainee children's counselor myself, um, I know it's important to get the view of of the child first as well to get their point of view of how they're feeling. What did you say if you could add to more approaches to children's counseling?
What in terms of the theoretical approach or the way we assess?
Um, both or the assessment, how you maybe what's happening
Assessment.
in the room for them.
From assessment side, we tend to work. We try to get as many viewpoints as possible, with obviously the main view being from what their kind of seat, if you will, where they're sitting with what's going on. Because obviously sometimes I think people can get a very narrow view of what's wrong with a child and what needs to be done to fix them. Whereas for the child, it's just that's not their reality. That's not what they're seeing. So I think the fulcrum point of all the assessment work we do is always going to be what the child thinks is, which is why we always do a final meeting with them before they start, because we want to make sure that they understand what they're going in for and what they want to get out of it. Because obviously, it doesn't matter how many parents or teachers or carers are involved, it's about the child. And that's obviously the most important part of it.
Yeah, and with this, the circumstances that we are in now with COVID-19, how do you think counseling might be able to help children in this during this time?
I think it's the same as any other time, really. It aids for that distress. It's when the almost the psychological conflict happens between what's going on and what you want. And I think a lot of the struggles that particularly adults have been dealing with tends to be more around wanting normality back. I think that seems to be the biggest difficulty people are having because they want to go back to normal. And because of that, they're resisting how life's got to be at the minute. Certainly in my experience with a lot of the children, they adapt really quickly. I mean, definitely in my experience with my own children, they adapt extremely quickly. And they will take on board anything that has to be done, or any ways like wearing masks, keeping distances from people, things like that. They seem to take it in their stride. I think it's only when we become a bit more rigid and a bit more fixed in our outlook does it start to pose more problems. I think the separation from friends caused a lot of trouble. I think everybody suffered a little bit of loneliness, I feel. I think one way, shape or form, I think it's something that everybody's experiencing. So I don't think it's put a particularly bad emphasis on. I mean, I have noticed that there's been a massive drop off in the amount of referrals coming through, which is surprising. I would have thought it would be the other way. But I think it's because everybody's still finding their feet, so to speak, because schools are very confusing at the minute because the rules keep changing and they keep swapping the way things are being done. I think it's in such a state of flux at the minute that they haven't got time to sort of sit down and realise that something's up.
Mm. And do you think that would have an impact on the children?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think their daily lives are completely different. The fact that they have to bubble, they can only see certain people, they can't cross paths, even down to like lunchtimes. Lunchtimes used to be sort of 50 minutes. They're now an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes because they have to separate all the different groups out. And obviously, the bigger the school, the more complex that becomes. So all those people you've got to see every day, you don't see anymore because they're in a different bubble.
Yeah. But what I would feel as well is because counseling is available for them, they would that it would be an outlet for them then, just to go and
Definitely.
speak to someone. And also, would you agree that if they could just have that space to talk, not
Oh,
even understanding maybe what they're saying, that would help.
yeah, without a doubt. It's always to have that reassurance, I think. And I think that's one thing that we do provide in the schools is we provide that consistency that we're not a teacher, we're not a dinner lady, we're not staff. We're
Mm.
somebody that can just come and tell their problems to, even if it's something really small and minor. So the drop-in service that we do has been very popular. That's been picked up a lot, but it's very small things all the time. So just sort of a couple of minutes chat and it's done.
Mm. And
But
who do you, sorry.
yeah, I think that it almost like dissipates the build up for the big problems by taking care of them while they're still small.
Yeah. That's right. And would you say then that if they could have an outlet, if they could just speak about their problems, or whatever concerns they have, they would have a better understanding, like you said, about the little problem before it gets bigger, and then that would make them feel better, and then they would be able to maybe deal with other issues more easily around them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you understood that it's okay to talk, it's okay to work through things when you're younger, I think you'd have a lot more well-adjusted adults that aren't trying to take on the world by themselves
Mm.
because they've learned that actually it is okay to not be okay as long as you do something about it. You don't just have to sit and wallow in it. Whereas I think children, obviously, because they're a bit more pliable, they're a bit more malleable, they'll adapt quicker. So learning this at primary school age, that it's okay to speak to a counsellor, it's okay to seek a professional to help you, it makes a massive difference, I think, going forward. And I think that's what we're going to be looking at long term. I think
Yeah.
obviously the longer this goes on, the more difference it's going to make. I mean, as a company, we do have some case studies from people that have left school and they've now got their own kids. And they've said the difference has been phenomenal because they know that if they're not feeling good about something, they don't put it off, they don't ignore it. They'll go and find somebody to sort it out.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you.